Good morning, Texoma, and thanks for joining us this morning. We're taking an inside look at the Faces of Drunk Driving campaign. It is actually being put on by TxDOT, Texas Department of Transportation. Joining us now with the very latest is Adele Lewis. She is the Public Information Officer for TxDOT. And Adele, we appreciate you being here with us this morning.
Thank you for having us on, because through this education is how we're going to get our word out, and so we appreciate it.
Absolutely, and I know the campaign is actually almost wrapping up. But you know what? That does not make the story that they have to tell today any less important or any less timely, because summer is coming, you know, and there may be lots of different parties, maybe lots of different activities going on, and alcohol could be involved in that. And that's just always, and especially here in Texas, it seems to be a deadly and a dangerous situation.
Well, the facesofdriving.com website and the campaign that we are part of will continue on.
Yes.
Now, the step grants that we give to local police departments and sheriff's departments to pay for extra officers on the streets, that's wrapped up for July. But yet, here we go. We're going to come up on Labor Day, and we will be offering this again to the police departments and the sheriff's departments. So every couple of months during a holiday, you will see a step up in law enforcement for various different safety purposes. So Faces of Drunk Driving will continue to be there, as well as the website.
And if we just dive right into that, it is literally faces who have maybe been affected one way or another by drunk drivers, correct?
Yeah, it all started for us about 10 years ago with a lady named Jackie Sabarita. She was a young foreign exchange student, beautiful girl, coming up in life and having a great time in Texas going to school. And she was, her girlfriends were all killed by a drunk driver, and she herself was burned beyond recognition.
And I know many of you probably saw the commercials in her.
They were shocking, and we did get some people calling us and saying they were too disturbing, but they were getting a message across. And since that time, we have expanded the Faces of Drunk Driving to show people the different faces of drunk driving and the different stories of how people's lives are affected by drunk driving.
And you know, Adele, a lot of them are heartbreaking. I mean, they make you, you know, just realize how dangerous and deadly it can be. I mean, you look at the photos of her, for example, or you hear the stories we're about to meet. Actually, one of those faces hits really close to home. He was a student at Midwestern State University, and it's a heartbreaking story, but why do you think that's so important to tell?
Well, I think the great thing about Texoma is that we actually have a chance to meet a local student. He's actually a student here in Wichita Falls going to MSU. And so I'm hoping that that has a greater impact. People will recognize him and be able to relate to him even better, because he got in a car wreck on Midwestern Parkway.
And really, I think don't you think it just shows that it can happen to anyone? You know, that seems to be a common saying, oh, it'll never happen to me, is what you hear over and over again.
Well, we know that 3,300 people died on Texas roads in the last year, 2012, but 3,300. Let me tell you, the #1 cause of death on Texas roads is alcohol or drug-related problems and fatalities. 35% of the people that die here in Texas on the roads, streets, wherever you want to say, freeways, are dying because of drunk drivers.
So completely preventable.
Completely preventable, and as we crack down on it more and the education gets out there, we hope to prevent more death, because not even one of these stories is acceptable. You know, we can get Texans to start buckling their seatbelts. We have 94% compliance rate, and we got into the seatbelt law late compared to places like Florida and California, and yet people will buckle up, but they just don't see the stigma associated with drunk driving.
And that's what this campaign is all about. That's what the stories are all about. We're actually, like we mentioned, we're going to hear one of those stories. Sean Carter, it happened back in 2005, was a junior in college at Midwestern State University, got into a wreck. He was not driving, but it was actually a passenger in a truck, and the driver was drunk.
His buddy was drunk. His buddy was drunk, and I believe Sean was just too drunk to even comprehend how drunk his buddy was, and it was tragic. But we'll hear his story, and he'll tell you from his own voice what happened.
Because he's not able to walk or talk, but you know what? His story, like I said, it's inspiring, because he has not given up hope, And I think he has a message that he wants to relay to everyone, and it's a powerful message, and it's one that we want you to definitely stick around for. We're about to take a quick break, and then we're going to join back with Sean. But really quickly, Adele, I think something else that is just important to point out is that Texas leads the nation in drunk driving, which is something I know we probably want to change. Need to change.
We don't need to be known for something like that, do we? So we're trying. This is one of the campaigns. The facesofdrunkdriving.com website, fantastic. People are giving us rave reviews about it. It's interactive. It's very fun. It's very educational too. It's a good place to go and learn, and maybe change your mind about this kind of stuff.
Absolutely. Well, Adele, thank you so much. And again, she's not going anywhere, but we're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back. We're going to meet Sean and his mother. So don't go anywhere, Texoma. Much more on TxDOT's Faces of Drunk Driving campaign is after the break. Welcome back to Inside Texoma. Once again, we are talking about the Faces of Drunk Driving campaign that TxDOT has underway, and we were talking right before the break about Sean Carter and his mother, Jenny Carter. Thank you both for being here today.
Well, thanks for having us.
Absolutely. And you know, we really just wanted to kind of take you back again to more of Sean's story, and it happened on Easter Sunday back in March of 2005, and you know, Sean was in a car accident in Wichita Falls. He was a Midwestern State University student, a junior at the school, and was in a Dodge Ram. That vehicle, he was the passenger, it actually spun out of control, hit a tree, and I understand the jaws of life even had to be used to get Sean out.
Yes.
And he was he was actually taken to the hospital in Dallas, correct?
Right, by ground ambulance because it was really rainy and windy that morning and they couldn't get a helicopter up. So we had to wait. I lived in Dallas at the time, and I had to wait for I waited to even go to Parkland because I knew it was going to take some time to get him down there. The accident investigator called and said, I need to let you, or do you have a son named Sean Carter? I need to let you talk to the emergency room physician. And he told me all of Sean's injuries. They were extensive. He listed all of them. His right side pretty much was fractured, pelvis fractured, bladder ruptured, all kinds of internal injuries and bone fractures. But he said, the worst thing is he's been non-responsive. Well, right away that means brain injury. So I knew he had a brain injury. I had no idea how bad it was.
And it's the brain injury that actually he's not able to speak or walk, but Sean, I know, you know, absolutely, you're not giving up on that. That's not going to stop you, correct, what the doctors say. What do you last remember before the crash that night?
With a traumatic brain injury as severe as mine, I have no memories of the crash, even several weeks before the crash. I have very little memory of being in college here at Midwestern. I had completed the fall semester of 2004, and was halfway through my second semester here in the spring of '05.
And y'all were just going out that night, correct?
Yes.
Can you tell us what's the first thing you remember after that accident?
Emerging from coma, everything was very cloudy. I cannot say there is one thing that stands out. I just have bits and pieces of memories from the early days of the injury. I remember being rolled down to therapy, but I could not even begin to guess what day, or even the month I started remembering things again.
You know, I always say that the whole process of emerging from coma was really like if you imagine being thrown into the deep end of a swimming pool, and you're looking up and you can't really see anything. It's real cloudy, and as you swim to the top, things become more and more clear. To me, that's what it looked like he was doing. You know, and there wasn't just one crystal moment that you could say, he's here. It was just a slow process of connections that he was making.
That's a great example. And I don't want to overlook this at all, but, you know, right now he is using his iPad and computer to actually speak. When was that introduced?
He got the actual speech device. His injury happened in March. He got a device in December. And so all that time he was spelling on a piece of paper that had the alphabet written on it. And he would go along and I'd have to keep up with what he was spelling, and he's very, I always call it verbose. he likes to talk. And it was hard for me to remember at the end of the sentence what he said at the beginning.
Right.
You know, I just couldn't do it. So when he got the device, it was wonderful.
Oops.
I'd like if you can just share a little bit about maybe Sean's life before the accident, because we've been seeing these photos and they look like modeling photos, and I understand he was in New York, and you know, he has goals now, and we're going to hear about some of his personal goals coming up. So you definitely want to stick around for that. But they're different than what they were in 2005, correct?
Right. He wanted to be a real estate attorney. And he was a model. He actually worked for the Campbell Agency in Dallas, and then had gone to New York City after 9/11, and the modeling industry was very depressed. And male models had a really hard time finding work. So he was there about 4 months, and he called one day and said, "Mom, I think I need to get my education. I can do this another time." Modeling for him was not the means to, it was the means to his end of getting his attorney's license. It wasn't, he didn't model because he thought he was pretty. He just happens to be pretty.
So he made money doing
Yeah,
it.
that's right. Yeah, he wasn't vain, though, at all. But he was very goal-oriented. He did really well in school. He made the dean's list. He was in the National Honor Society for his associate's degree. And he was pretty much on track here to do that well.
Right.
His grades were good. He was working full-time. And what I always say, too, besides having these goals and working full-time and just being really driven, he also partied a lot, you know, on the weekends. And I think that's typical of kids in college.
Sean, let me ask you, what was your reaction after that wreck whenever you found out when the doctors told you you're never going to walk or talk again?
I just kept going through every day as happy as I could be with my situation. My mom has been telling me since I was a kid, happiness is a choice. Going through every day with a bad attitude does not accomplish anything. Happiness is contagious. Do you not notice when you are around others who are smiling and in a good mood, you yourself feel happier? Making friends is important to me. Sure, there are occasions when I have to fake being happy, but if I help someone else be happy, that happiness will rub off on me.
Wow. Oh, I just, you know, I mean, you're listening to this story, Adele and Jenny and Sean, and it's heartbreaking, but you're so right about happiness. I mean, you look over there, and Sean's got the biggest smile of anybody here, and you can't help but smile along with him. Jenny, does that help you, I mean, as a mom, to see your son go through this, and what a positive attitude through all of this?
You know, he has been a blessing, truly a blessing. I don't know, I've met a lot of brain injury survivors that have honestly been as bad or worse off than Sean, that don't have that smile, and it's a different world. We don't live in our grief, we live in our happiness.
What gets you through that? How do you do that? What is it?
You know, my mom once told me that, and there's an old expression, smile in the world smiles with you, cry and you cry alone. And it is never more apparent when you are dealing with grief. People don't want to be there. I mean, as much as they think they want to be there or try to be there, that's a hard place to ask people to live. It's a lot easier to live with a smile and happiness. So, you know, it's just what we do. I don't know how you do it. You just do it.
Right. So, Sean, let me ask you then, how did you take that tragic news and turn it around and keep that smile on your face?
I was devastated, horribly depressed. I spent many nights crying. I thought my life was over. Never say never, though. I have never been told I will never walk or talk again by any doctor I have ever seen, and I have seen many.
That's awesome.
So he just believes that he will walk and he will talk.
This is why having such an inspiration has been so good for the Faces of Drunk Driving campaign. People like Sean, man, can inspire everybody.
Oh, yeah. But you see what happened, and you see how serious It is. And those choices, I mean, you know, whenever you think about that split moment of fun or the split moment of I'm okay, I can get behind the wheel and drive, it's not the case.
The problem is that people don't recognize when they're not capable of driving. You know, you become 10 feet tall and bulletproof when you've been drinking, and that's a real problem. So plans have to be made ahead of time. And that's really part of why we want to be part of the Faces of Drunk Driving campaign, is to try to change our culture and make people realize, make your plans first. We're not telling you don't drink. We're telling you don't drink and drive that vehicle.
Drinking may be worth it for that one night of fun, but that's all it is, one night.
And you know, in Sean's case, you were the passenger, Sean, so what...
Yes.
What do you do? I mean, being the passenger, what's your advice for other teens?
I try to encourage minors not to drink. Drinking underage is illegal. Not to mention the average person's brain is not fully developed until they are 25. And to advocate for responsible drinking from adults. If we change the way society views that all good times can be found in a bottle, that would be a start. People need to be responsible about their drinking. They have to realize that their plans need to be made before they start drinking. And the designated driver needs to take that responsibility seriously.
Yeah. Oh, that's great advice. I guess it's just natural to think there was anger, Sean, and I don't want to put those words in your mouth, you know, so to speak, but was there anger, and if it was, how do you overcome that?
I truly never was angry at anyone. I put myself in that truck, being driven by my drunk friend. What happened to me was the result of the decisions I made that night. The only person I could legitimately be angry with is myself, and being angry at myself or anyone would not do anything for me. Sure, I was sad, but I have accepted what happened. There is no rolling back the clock to fix bad events in your life. All you can do is move forward. I am moving forward.
Wow. You know, Sean, I think we can learn from you in more ways than one. You know what I mean? Not even just the whole don't get behind the wheel with someone who's been drinking or don't drink and drive, but applying that to every part of our lives, you know? I mean, such an inspiration again. So, I mean, obviously, you have a message and inspiration that you share with others on a daily basis. How are you using, though, what happened to you specifically to help teens and adults with this campaign, with the Faces of Drunk Driving campaign?
I hope to make a difference to that person who does not realize that he has had too much to drink. I want them to stay where they are. I want their friends to step in and take their keys. I want to stop the loss of innocent lives and the senseless injuries that are caused by a drunk behind the wheel. Too many people are injured or killed by the senseless act of driving under the influence.
And that kind of goes back to the whole, it's preventable, right? I mean, is that something we need to learn and take away from this? That, you know, and I think they told it to me earlier the best. It's not an accident because it's something that can be prevented.
Exactly. Exactly.
What about your life mission now, Sean?
It's a good thing to say.
My life mission, or one of many. I started a nonprofit foundation when Sean Speaks Incorporated. Our mission as the nonprofit is to fundamentally improve the lives of people impacted by traumatic brain injuries through public awareness, education, and research. I participated in a research study at UTMB in Galveston 2 summers ago. It was conducted by a professor of physical therapy there. Paraphrasing, his hypothesis was, by doing intense physical exercise, getting your heart rate up, it will help provide more oxygen to the brain, while improving one's physical fitness. I would work on walking in addition to doing weight training. I now have a home gym at my house that I use to strengthen my body. I also get a cardiovascular workout on another piece of equipment that I have. I can now walk with a cane in my left hand, and my mom helping support me on my right side. This has all been a horrific nightmare, but this too shall pass.
Much more from Sean and his personal goals, which I know he's excited to share. So stick around. We'll be right back with much more. Welcome back to Inside Texoma. Once again, we are taking an inside look at the Faces of Drunk Driving campaign. This is actually put on by TxDOT, and we've been hearing a little bit about Sean Carter's story. He was the passenger who was in a vehicle. The driver was drunk, hit a tree, and it's just changed Sean's life. But if you've been listening, you can tell he has taken this tragedy, and is what many of us are going to see it, and just turned it into hope and inspiration for so many others. We were just asking you a little bit about your life mission, and I wanted to ask you some of your personal goals, Sean, if you can just share with us what those are.
Personal goals. I am sure anyone watching can guess 2 of them. To talk and walk again. I want to get married and have children when I find the right woman. Or when she finds me.
That's right.
I have seen my friends and even people many years younger get married and have children. Not always in that order, but I think you get the point.
You go out and you speak a lot. I know that's something we haven't really talked about, but when you share your story, what do you want them to take away?
If I had to just have one thing they take away, I would have to say, no matter how bad things might feel at any particular time, if you hang on to even a glimpse of hope, things will improve. I mean, I am an on-talking public speaker. Do you know of anything more strange than that? I knew there had to be some reason I was left alive. I was literally knocking on death's door. I just hung on, and things have improved for me. Things still improve all the time. Progress is painfully slow these days, but it's still progress.
I think hope, and by no accident, is definitely true. Jenny, I mean, you were sharing with us in the break how you kind of got started in this because y'all went to Mothers Against Drunk Driving. You said you just had to not be down,
right.
so much.
We needed to try to stop what was going on. And so we went to it. They call them Victims Impact Panels, or VIPs, with Mothers Against Drunk Driving. And in Dallas County, they have from 250 to 300 first-time DUI offenders every month. 250 to 300 people every month, first-time offenders. The thing about it is that usually somebody that's stopped for drunk driving, that's not the first time they've driven drunk. The average is like 85 times they've been behind the wheel drunk. And so we shared our story, and we got such an overwhelming positive response from these people who identified with Sean. Hey, this is a nice-looking young man, a good person, and look what happened to him.
Yeah.
And I could have caused it.
It's neat almost to see, though, how something so horrible, it's turned into something so positive and beautiful. I mean, being able to share this and touch others, what do you think? I mean, what can you say about that? You said your faith. I mean, has that gotten you through this?
Oh my gosh, yes. And it's like God has led us down a path. When there was no hope, literally there was no hope. I didn't have a job because I quit to take care of my son. I wasn't married. How were we going to move forward? This has given us an opportunity to move forward with our lives. We feel like we're doing good work. And that's something that every night we ask in our prayers, Lord, please let us do good work tomorrow. And we feel like we're accomplishing a little bit of that.
I would say more than a little, absolutely.
Thank you.
What's the response, Sean, that you get from family? She mentioned you have a brother, that you get from family and friends when they see you.
2 brothers.
2 brothers. We don't want to leave out either one of them.
Right, he has an identical twin brother.
Really?
Yes, and he has something to say about that. Can you get there real quick?
Remember, Mom said we are identical twins. But I was born the better-looking identical twin.
I love it.
Of course, his twin brother says the same thing.
Yeah, I was going to say. Yeah. So what does your family and friends say to you now when they see you speaking?
This is my life now. My friends and family know that. I don't think they give it much thought anymore. Of course, I believe they respect and value what we do, but they treat me like any other person doing their job. At least, I would hope they do.
Sean, if someone says it's never going to happen to me because, you know, Adele and I were talking about this earlier, and it just seems to kind of be the common thing, especially with people who are young and bulletproof, and you know what, you've got the whole world in front of you, and it's just never going to happen to me. What is your message?
Think again. I thought the same thing years ago. I was invincible. Nothing bad would ever happen to me. Something catastrophic did happen. It does not matter if you are a good person, most every day. All it takes is one bad decision.
Definitely something to keep in mind. Absolutely.
Each and every person has something they can contribute to make this a better world. No, not everybody does their part every day, but I believe we all were put in this world having unique God-given abilities. I am just trying to do my part.
Wow. I know that just got to make you so proud. When you hear these answers, Jenny, I mean, come out. It's just...
Yeah, I am extremely proud. And when you think about, he can't just spit it out. He sits and thinks about these kind of things. And our tagline on our nonprofit is, "There is wisdom in his silence." And I think there really is. He's a very wise young man. Absolutely. And I am proud.
For good reason, right, Adele?
It's obviously a very strong family, though, because Jenny is such an inspiration in herself to be, Sean, you know, we're moms, too.
Yeah.
Jenny, oh my gosh, we are not worthy. She's awesome. You're so lucky, and you guys are so lucky to be a team together. This is your mission together now.
Right.
Thank you. Thank
Absolutely.
you. And that's exactly how we view our life, is we are a team.
Has there been anything, and really this is to both of you, but Sean, I'd like to start with you. Has there been anything happen, you know, since that night, since that wreck, whether it's a statement, a letter, a word from someone that you were speaking to, or maybe just heard your story that has encouraged you and made you stop and think, you know what, this is why I keep telling my story?
Many of the kids who hear us speak will say they changed their mind about going to a party tonight. Some even say they will never go to a party again. Responses like that make me realize what we are doing is making a difference.
Periodically, we've come through Wichita Falls, and we speak at the North Texas State Hospital to the kids that are in, I guess they're incarcerated for substance abuse and alcohol problems. And we always pass out our business card wherever we speak so that people can contact us. And we were at home, it was probably 9 months from the time we'd been here last, and this young girl called. And she said that she saw us there, and she just wanted to let me know that she had been clean and straight since she heard Sean speak.
Wow.
You have to keep doing what you're doing if you touch lives like that.
Absolutely. Ugh. And Adele, hearing that is why this was even started, right? I mean, this is why Faces, you know, these Faces of Drunk Driving campaign exist, right? It's for that outcome.
It's to show that these people are real, and the consequences of drinking and driving is real. And that's why the website, facesofdrunkdriving.com, and Jenny also has a website, which is
WhenSeanSpeaks.com.
WhenSeanSpeaks.com. Both great places to find resources and maybe learn some life lessons.
And other stories, because I know there's 3 other stories, you know, just like Sean, and big stories here in Texas, you know, stories that are changing lives, sending out inspiration, messages of hope, but also wisdom, you know, what you need to do before you go out that night, you know, before you get behind the wheel, or before you even get in the car with someone who's been drinking. Lots of wisdom, lots of just great things. We appreciate you sharing today. Jenny, thank you for being here. And Sean,
thank you for having us.
We can't say thanks enough for you being here today as well.
This lady here with me is my #1 angel.
Throw this in.
I don't say this enough, but thank you, Mom, for everything you do.
Thank you.
I love you, beyond the moon and back.
You too.
Oh.
Thank you.
Oh, that's great. I know.
Save it for the commercial.
I know we have all of Texoma in tears. Well, thanks again, and thank you, Texoma, for joining us. As always, we will see you back here next Sunday morning for another look inside Texoma.